Ethan Cole stared at the corroded hangar doors of Orbital Outpost 9, the ownership transfer glowing faintly on his wrist display. 1 credit. That was the final bid. 1 single credit for a decommissioned military hangar abandoned beyond regulated shipping lanes. The auction description had been deliberately thin. Obsolete infrastructure, contents unverified, buyer accepts all liability. It was the kind of listing desperate people clicked on. Ethan was desperate enough to travel 3 weeks from Earth on borrowed money just to see what he had bought. The doors resisted at first, then groaned apart with the strained protest of neglected machinery. Cold air rushed outward, stale and metallic, carrying the faint scent of decay. His helmet lamp activated automatically, throwing a narrow beam into the vast interior. The light struck metal. A lot of metal. Ethan froze. A warship occupied the hangar almost wall to wall. Not a modern vessel, not sleek or efficient, but massive and angular, its armor scarred by age and conflict. The insignia along its hull was barely visible beneath layers of oxidation. Ethan recognized it instantly. A Vanguard-class cruiser from the First Contact conflict. No civilian should ever have access to one. These ships were legends. Most were destroyed, the rest dismantled under strict treaties. Sections of the hull sagged. Panels hung loose. Entire compartments looked moments away from collapse. Ethan exhaled shakily. Even stripped down, the raw alloys alone could make him rich. Worth it, he muttered, more to steady himself than out of confidence. He stepped inside. His boots echoed unnaturally loud against the hangar floor. The station's emergency systems hummed weakly, barely sustaining breathable air. The silence pressed against him, thick and watchful. As he approached the ship's flank, his lamp swept across faded lettering. BCS obdurate. That was when he heard it. A sound that did not belong to machines. Slow. Controlled. A breath. Ethan stopped mid-step. His lamp flicked across the shadows, catching nothing but steel ribs and dark recesses. Hello? He called, forcing authority into his voice. This hangar is private property. No answer. Then near the far bulkhead 2 pale lights appeared. Not reflections. Not indicators. They advanced, silent and deliberate, revealing a towering figure that seemed grown rather than built. Its body was layered in overlapping scales, shifting color as it moved. Its limbs bent at unfamiliar angles. Its gaze fixed on Ethan with unsettling calm. You were not meant to open this place, the being said. The voice did not travel through the air. It resonated inside his chest. Ethan's breath caught. What are you? Ethan whispered, his hand drifting instinctively toward the plasma torch at his belt. It was a tool, not a weapon, and both of them knew it. I am known as Kale, the being replied. I am the warden. Warden. The word settled heavily in the air. Ethan swallowed. Warden of what? That ship. Kale's eyes dimmed slightly as if considering the question trivial. Not the vessel. What it contains. Every instinct screamed at Ethan to run. To seal the doors, abandon the station, forget he had ever come. But Earth offered him nothing except debt notices and silent apartments. This hangar had been his last gamble. I bought this place legally, he said, forcing steadiness. Whatever's here belongs to me now. Kale regarded him with something close to pity. Your species assigns ownership to objects it barely understands. That belief has destroyed civilizations. Then explain it, Ethan shot back. Explain what you're guarding. For a long moment, Kale said nothing. Then he turned toward the cruiser and gestured. Come. But understand this, knowledge cannot be returned. The ship's cargo ramp opened at Kale's touch. Inside, the corridors were worse than the exterior suggested. Collapsed ceilings. Buckled bulkheads. Dust layered so thick it muted sound. Yet personal items remained untouched. Photographs secured in lockers, half-packed bags, abandoned meals fossilized on tables. The crew hadn't fled. They had stayed. This vessel was never lost, Kale said as they moved deeper. It was sealed. Hidden. What happened to them? They fulfilled their duty. They descended through the ship's core until they reached a reinforced chamber. Heavy containment doors bore warning symbols Ethan couldn't read. Kale placed a hand against the control panel. Ancient locks disengaged one by one. The chamber opened. At first Ethan thought it was empty. Then his lamp caught the center of the room. A sphere floated there, suspended by crackling arcs of contained energy. Perfectly smooth. Perfectly black. The light didn't reflect. It vanished into it. What is that? Ethan asked, unable to stop himself from stepping closer. A mistake, Kale answered. Forged during the war. Ethan's voice trembled. A weapon. Not destruction, Cale corrected. Erasure. Cale explained how human scientists had uncovered ancient technology in a dead system. How they believed they could control it. The first test removed an asteroid from existence. The second removed its moon. Then the planet. Then the star. Reality unraveled outward until nothing remained. An entire solar system ceased to have ever existed. This sphere is unique, Cale said softly. Everything connected to its creation is gone. Ethan staggered back, horror tightening his chest. Why keep it? Because someone must ensure it is never used again. Ethan struggled to breathe as the implications crushed down on him. Then why sell the hangar? He asked. Why let anyone near this? Cale's gaze lowered. Your governments buried the truth. Records decayed. Warnings were lost beneath bureaucracy. Eventually, this place became just another forgotten asset. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken dread. Finally, Ethan asked, What happens now? Cale turned fully toward him. That decision is yours. He outlined the choices calmly, without judgment. Ethan could leave and alert authorities, though without proof he would be dismissed, and bringing attention risked exposure to those who would exploit the sphere. He could attempt to sell it, weaponize it, or ransom it, becoming unimaginably wealthy while placing all existence at risk. Or he could remain. Remain? Ethan echoed. The warden must be replaced, Cale said. I have endured here for centuries. My strength fades. Someone else must take my place. The weight of that sentence hollowed Ethan out. He thought of Earth. Of every failure. Every plan that led nowhere. The constant feeling that he was meant for something he never found. Maybe this was why. How long? Ethan asked quietly. Until another accepts the burden. Or until the sphere decays, which may take millennia. And if I refuse? Cale met his eyes. Then I cannot allow you to leave. The honesty in the statement chilled him more than any threat. Ethan laughed weakly. Guard a universe-ending artifact forever or die here. Yes. Ethan studied Cale's posture. The stillness of someone who had waited far too long. This was not a monster. This was a soldier who never went home. Someone always had to stand watch. Teach me, Ethan said at last. Everything. For the first time, Cale's expression shifted. Relief perhaps. Thank you, he said. You will understand why this duty matters. They sealed the chamber together. As the doors closed, Ethan glanced back at the sphere one final time. He had expected scrap metal and salvage. Instead, he had purchased responsibility. Outside, ships passed the station unaware. Life continued. Commerce thrived. Children were born under stars that still existed because two sentinels stood guard in silence. Ethan Cole had bought a hangar for 1 credit. He would spend the rest of his life paying for it. Days turned into weeks as Ethan learned the systems, the protocols, the history Cale had memorized over centuries. He learned how the containment field was sustained, how the station's decaying infrastructure could be coaxed into survival, how silence itself became a companion. There were no alarms. No visitors. No recognition. Only vigilance. Cale spoke often of the war, not with bitterness but with clarity. His species and humanity had once tried to annihilate each other. Yet when the sphere was discovered, both sides recognized a truth greater than conflict. Some weapons could not be allowed to exist in the hands of anyone. Guardianship was not heroism. It was endurance. Ethan stopped thinking in years. He marked time by maintenance cycles and orbital rotations. The outside universe felt increasingly distant, like a story he once read. Sometimes he imagined what might have happened if he had never bid on the auction. If another scavenger had come instead. Or worse, someone ambitious. Cale grew slower. His movements deliberate, measured. One day he did not rise from his resting place. Ethan understood what had happened without words. He sealed the cruiser alone for the first time. Centuries passed. The station drifted. Empires rose and collapsed beyond its censors. Humanity changed, fractured, reunited, forgot. The sphere remained unchanged. Black. Absolute. Patient. Eventually, another ship docked at Outpost 9. A woman stood before the hangar doors, holding a glowing deed confirmation. She frowned at the corrosion. At the warning signs no one remembered writing. Ethan watched from the shadows as the doors opened. Hello, she called. I just bought this place. Ethan stepped forward, his form altered by time and necessity. His voice resonated with practiced control. You should not have come here. As her fear bloomed, Ethan felt no cruelty. Only understanding. Someone always had to stand watch. And now it was his turn to ask the question that mattered most. What are you willing to give up to keep the universe intact?